Let's start with the back page of the Mail then, Jason and Charlie, and that big story that's going to be very much a conversation throughout the night and the morning. Qatari's staggering swoop for United, super rich investors to table offers within days. Glazers want £6 billion and group confident bid will blow rivals away. And Ten Hag set for a huge transfer kitty. Charlie, what do you make of this? Would we have expected something similar to this to emerge?
I certainly think it was a matter of time that the billionaires, particularly from the Middle East, increase their interest in the club. Of course, it's particularly interesting the location of the country where these investors are from, because of course your first thoughts that is it Qatari sports investment that of course have massive influence at PSG. So I think they've got to prove that it's not them, because obviously they wouldn't be able to play in the same competition. But it's going to be a huge deal that's needed to buy Manchester United, and of course, £6 billion being spoken about, and then they've got a stadium that is tired, needs £2 billion, whether it's a new stadium or knocking down the main stand. So it's a massive rebuild. I think Manchester United fans would still prefer Jim Ratcliffe, a billionaire Manchester United fan, but it's an interesting development, and I'm sure some other it will probably flush some other wannabe buyers as well.
Yeah, exclusive by Mike Keegan, Jason, the back page of the Daily Mail, online, of course, as well. He says that could be a stumbling block with the Qatari sports investments ownership of Paris Saint-Germain, because both clubs theoretically play in the Champions League, or may well do next season. But he said it will be separate Qatari investors. With all the inquest into football finance, though, would you think that Manchester United's entity would be concerned about any apparent lack of transparency? How clear would this have to be that it is a separate ownership team?
I mean, what we do know about this is that there is a sort of timeline coming ahead, that the Rain Group, who are in charge of selling Manchester United, have a deadline of sort of mid-February for bids to come in. So I guess these sort of stories are going to come out over the next few days. As Charlie already said, Jim Ratcliffe has signalled his intention to bid. With the Qataris, I think because the price tag is so high and the Glazers are looking at £6 billion, then who is going to be able to buy Manchester United? We saw Todd Bowley's group pay, £2.5 to £4 billion for Chelsea. So in terms of investors, it's going to have to be somebody super rich or a state basically doing this. The Qataris are an obvious possibility, because we know obviously the interest they have in football, which is fueled even more by the World Cup. What I know for a fact is the Qataris are definitely looking at the Premier League and definitely looking at Premier League clubs. What I'm not so sure about is that they're going to actually make a formal bid for Manchester United. I think the point you've made already about the investment they've got in Paris Saint-Germain, I think alarm bells will be ringing about how that will be separate from whatever they do at Manchester United or any other Premier League clubs. Clearly, they'll be careful to make sure there's sort of a division between the investment vehicle they put forward if they do buy Manchester United or any other football club, or indeed invest in any other football club. But I think that will be a red flag that the Premier League and UEFA will look at and think, how different are they from QSI, who own Paris Saint-Germain?
Charlie, will any investors looking at United want to get this through before the government white paper is fully discussed and any regulator potentially comes into football? Is there an opportunist element to this, do you feel?
I think any investor will want to get it done as soon as possible for that obvious reason. But equally, Manchester United, what an incredible opportunity for, if you've got that amount of money, there's not that many people have. But this doesn't come up very often, does it? So I still think there'll be some more offers. But certainly, I think the Glazers are going to get quite a lot of money for that club.
Yeah, Jason, just quickly on that fee, the £6 billion, when you look at the accounts, is Manchester United one of the few worldwide sports entities that is probably worth that? Because there's no kind of confusion over how much they can bring in. It seems very much that the merchandising pool goes global.
I think that price is very ambitious, if I'm honest. There's an awful lot of needs to be done at Manchester United. Charlie's already touched on it in terms of the stadium and the infrastructure. A lot of investment has to go into the club. And obviously the price that was paid by the Bowley Group for Chelsea is less than that. But even that price staggered me, really. But that also factored in an awful lot of investment that they promised to put into Chelsea. Manchester United, as you say, the biggest club, the most sort of visible club in the Premier League and possibly potentially in world football. they will be looking for this sort of price. But I think it's high. I think the Rain Group, who are overseeing the sale, are being very, very ambitious. And I think they're trying to flush out as much interest as possible to drive that price up in the way they did with Chelsea and all the expressions of interest that came forward there. As I say, what we do know is that there's a deadline coming very, very soon of when expected bids are supposed to be in. I think it's mid-February. So, as I say, we'll see more of these types of stories. Jim Ratcliffe has already expressed his interest. Other people will do so as well. Personally, I still think £6 billion is too much, and I'll be surprised if people are willing to pay as much as that. And then that will be interesting whether or not the Glazers think, actually, it's not what we want. We want £6 billion, and they may just sell a stake in Manchester United rather than sell the whole club.
We'll get on to Manchester City in just a second, Charlie, but that was mentioned about the fact that Jim Ratcliffe is a fan. How desperate are football fans for owners who share their emotional attachment to a club, not just the financial interest in it?
100%, and particularly if you're a Manchester United fan and have gone through the agony of having the Glazer family own your club and basically, obviously, the way they've sort of managed the debt and the way they've borrowed against it, very, very frustrating. To have a Manchester United fan own that football club, I think would mean the world to supporters of that club. So there's absolutely no doubt that's who they'll want to own their club in a few months' time.